Hello there. I am just going to review how I set up my own REST desk server so that I could support people that I need to help out using REST Desk, which turns out to be a pretty cool replacement for TeamViewer or a host of other apps. I had previously been using Zoho Assist, but didn't want to pay for it anymore. So the first thing I did was go to the REST Desk site, read everything. I downloaded the clients, but then I realized I needed a server. So I went here and said, okay, how can I set this up myself? And going to the site, I sort of read the various notes that are on here. I went down to installation, and I went ahead and just grabbed the script that is at Tekahold, and just go to that site here, and it's a matter of following the directions. And basically, before I could do this, however, I needed to set up a Linux server. And I found the easiest way to do that was to go to a website called lowendbox.com. They have lots of cheap VPSs. Some as low as $1, some as low as a couple bucks a month. I think I wound up signing up for one special that was about $2 a month or $1.50 a month. I did it for a whole year. It was like $18. But you could find all kinds of boxes here that are well within the specs required by REST Desk to act as a relay server. If it's just going to be you by yourself, any of these cheap little boxes will do it. So I went ahead and signed up, paid for one, and once I did that, I basically was able to open up PuTTY to log into it, and you get full root access. I'll go through the steps in a minute. Okay, so I now have a free server out on the web. I'm not going to worry about hiding the IP address because I'm going to delete it before I publish this video, so you will have a different IP address, obviously. Log in, and when I provisioned this server, I provisioned an Ubuntu 20, which is one of the supported releases. I'm not going to bother doing the upgrade commands. I'm just going to basically follow the steps given here by the document. So the first command I'm going to do is the allow TCP from my IP address, and I will do that command just like it shows there. I'm going to pause this so I could do this real quickly, and I'm not going to reveal my personal IP address. Okay, now I'm going to resume adding the rest of the statements just as this thing indicates. Just type in all the commands. And with that done, the firewall is now active. And now I can actually do the next part, which is actually running the install script. Now, what I did prior to connecting to PuTTY, using PuTTY to connect to the Linux box, was I took the IP address assigned to me by the provider that I got through LowEndBox, and I created an A record on a DNS entry that I have through my DNS provider. I use Namecheap.com, and they provide basic DNS services, so you can just go there and add an A record to your domain. In this case, I used r.domain.com. You'll see it here in a second. So that is already active. I did that probably was one of the first things I did once I knew the IP address of my instance, so that way that would be working. So that way, starting this process, all I'm doing is logging into the Linux box, doing the firewall commands as this thing requests, and now I'm going to type in the command to do this. I'm going to try and copy and paste it, see if it will let me. Sometimes it does. And on Windows with PuTTY, you can copy and just right-click and it'll do it. And there it is. So now I'm just going to chmod, make this script executable. And I'm going to execute the script. And it is going to go to town and do what it needs to do, installing whatever it needs. And it'll take a second or two. This script seems to have paused right now while it's doing prerequisites, so I'm just going to pause recording a little bit longer and let's see what happens. Okay, took it about a minute and now it's doing a little bit more. And I think it's the script is actually running. Nope, it's still installing prereqs. So as you can see, this will take a minute. Probably should have done a apt-get /-update to update Ubuntu, but that's okay. This will take care of it. So I'm going to pause this until this is all done and come back and hopefully catch the installer doing its initial startup once the prerequisites are loaded. Okay, the script is now back in control, and it's going to prompt you to choose your preferred connection method. And I believe I selected number 2. So let's go here and do 2 for DNS domain name. And I'm going to type in the name of my entry that I added into my DNS provider. So I just use R and then whatever domain it was, just to keep it short. You can make it as long or short as you want. And now RustDesk will do its installation and configuration. I went ahead and selected yes for this. And as you can see here, once it's done, it will tell you all the details you need to know, what the public key is that you need to include in your Rust client, address of the machine, etc. So let's go ahead and visit that IP address right now and see what happens. I'm going to save these details first, so that way I can use them with the client. Okay, so I'm using the Edge browser, and be sure to type in http:// so that the browser doesn't default to HTTPS. So I'm just going to go ahead and log in and sign in. And there we go. Here is the script that can install the client on Linux or the Windows install agent. It's a PowerShell script to install it on Windows. I opted to just download the client from the GitHub site, the executable, and run it myself. I went to the RustDesk site and just clicked on the download app, and it took me to the current release, and I just grabbed the Windows 64-bit client to use as the console to run on, and then I also have it running on a different machine as well. I'm going to go through what happens after it's installed. You will get a prompt when you install it that it wants to install as a service to avoid the UAC prompts. I went ahead and accepted that, but I don't think normally you have to. I haven't tried yet connecting without it just having a basic installation. So you've got RustDesk running on your Windows laptop. So now I'm just going to update my settings. I'm going to go to network. I'm going to unlock the settings, and my ID server is going to be the name I registered, and I think you can put them both the same. I don't think it matters. You do want to make sure you grab your public key, because the public key is what uses to connect and encrypt. And obviously, I'm going to delete the server, so when you try it, you need to use the values from your own installation. So I'm going to hit apply, and it says successful, so I'm going to go home, and this says service is not running. I'm going to go back to my server over here. I believe everything is going. The true test will be for me to connect to a different machine running the Rust desktop. So hold on 1 second. I'm going to install it on something else and try and connect to it. I went ahead and enabled the service. And now I put in the ID of a remote desktop, and I made sure on the other remote desktop that I also configured the right ID server and the same key. And let's try and connect. And there we go. I just put in the password for this other machine, which I happen to know. And hit OK. And I'm going to, if you're running, I actually have an RDP session active to it, so I'm just going to go to that RDP session, and let's see if it'll connect me. I've had issues in the past doing that where I need to know, I have to have a pre-configured password. So I'm just going to hit close, and I'm going to reconnect just to the console this time. And it's complaining. Okay. Hang on 1 second. I'm going to configure a password because that is a remote machine that I cannot see. Okay, I set a permanent password on that other machine. I'm going to connect to it now. And there you have it. I am now in a remote session, and I can do whatever I want in here. And that's the basics of getting set up and running. I'm not going to cover any more details other than that. So I'm just going to hit the X to get out, and there you have it. Getting Rustdesk up and running using a cloud server from a Windows desktop, and then just getting the client installed onto another machine. Now, one thing you potentially could do if you wanted, I plan on making my own installer just to help some of my end users who are not tech savvy do this in a little bit easier fashion. You can copy the contents of where the Rust desktop is installed to some other folder on your computer. And then you can rename the executable by adding some additional things between the end of the program and the .executable.exe, where you wind up putting in the relay server and the key. So that way when someone runs the application, they don't have to go into the network settings and configure the ID server and the key. It'll automatically read it from the name of the program. Apparently it doesn't take command line parameters. That would be probably easier to do, but it's just a quick way of doing that. I know with the open source nature of this, you can download the source code to the client and compile it with your own configuration, so that way you could push it out to clients if you're in like a situation where you can push software out to end users, desktops, etc. But in this case, that's how this works. If you're ever in the situation where you need to redo the key, so you think you've been compromised, I think you just go to the opt folder on the server and go to where Rustdesk is, and the key files are right here, ied2 ed25519.pub, and my understanding is you just shut down the service, or you delete them and restart the machine, and it'll regenerate a new file. In the cases where you want to add the key into the file name, you may have to regenerate the key a few times until you get characters that are safe for using in a file name. I believe in this case the plus and the equal sign are not going to cause a problem, but if you were to get a slash in there, Windows would complain about that, or some other characters. But there's information about that online. But this is the easiest thing to do. Just have someone install it, put in your host name, email them the key, have them copy and paste it, and then that's it. Once you connect to them, you'll see them here. Obviously, the pro version of Rust Desktop has other features like an address book, etc. But this is a quick and easy way to get your own server up and running. And naturally, if you're in a corporate environment, you can stand alone your own server on a physical box or a virtual machine inside of your network, and it doesn't necessarily have to be external to the internet. But if you're helping your parents in another country or whatever, this works out really well. Enough of me talking. Hopefully you found this helpful. Thanks, and have a great day.